All right, we back live. As promised, breaking news. Diddy was sentenced to 50 years. So that's pretty much just over, I said 50 years. I'm sorry, 50 months. So that's just over 4 years that he's going to have to serve with this sentence that just came down today. Wow. If y'all was tuned in this morning, what was the guess? Prosecution was moving for 11 years. I said, if you ask me, he's going to come on the lighter side of that mid mark. So somewhere in the 4 year range. Nailed it perfectly, right? Let's look at a little bit of the details. Let's get some of the drop, the tone, the reaction in the court. We're gonna start here with Rolling Stones. Sean Combs sentenced to 50 months in prison. I hate myself right now. The disgraced music mogul said as he begged in vain for the sentence of no more than 14 months. So he was hoping for just over a year. Not the case. All right. Imagine, walking into a certain situation looking for a year and getting 4 times that. Yeah, it's got to be tough mentally. And man, as far as him thinking that he was going to get a shorter term, did y'all see those earlier reports? All reports were coming out. I said like a couple hours ago that the judge was pissed off because I'll say allegedly, Diddy was booking speaking engagements in Miami for next week. Now, that's going to be one of two things. One, you was that confident, you and your team of lawyers, that you was going to walk today, or you was going to get, maybe time served, get a year and then time served and then just get out, get processed tomorrow, whatever. You either thought that, or I don't want to believe it's a money thing because you see like bogus bookings, right? Trying to collect some money and just taking deposits. And those would probably be some big ass checks getting cut to Diddy talking about speaking engagements next week when you fresh out. Hell yeah, I want that content. But nah, Diddy got money, so it can't be that. Is that a level of arrogance though? Like to have shit booked? Or maybe there's a third option. Maybe you felt like booking these engagements, making them legitimate, and then speaking about them in court would show the judge how much you are dedicated to going out there and being a positive impact on the community. I don't know, man, but it seemed that it was received pretty bad as far as reports that were coming out. All right, let's continue. Sean Diddy Combs, the music mogul convicted of transporting his ex-girlfriends and male escorts across state lines for days-long drug-fueled sex marathons known as freak-offs, was sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison on Friday, marking a dramatic turn in the stunning fall from grace. Hold on. How old is Diddy right now? How old is he's in his 50s already, right? He's already in his 50s. Yeah. All right. So he's 55 years old. Yeah. So he's coming home when he's just about 60 years old. 60 years old. Yeah, I know he wasn't hoping for 4 years, but the punishment handed down by District Court Judge Arun was meant to send a message to abusers and victims alike that the exploitation and violence against women is met with real accountability, the judge said, according to the New York Times. It also far exceeded what the once powerful producer had requested. Judge also imposed a $500,000 fine, half a milli. And he's still dealing with all these civil suits. The Cassies of the world, the Daphne Joys allegedly of the world. You know what? Speaking of the people that's probably celebrating, is 50 already outside? I'm gonna peek over there real quick and then we're gonna get back to things. I'm just doing this in flight, thinking about the people that's probably celebrating. Is 50 already posting? Is 50 live? Oh my God. You can't be serious. Of course. All right, hold on. We'll switch back. Oh man, fucking 50. So yeah, he's already up on his page, people. We're doing this live. 50 Cent. Hater whoever was booking Diddy for speak. Oh my God. Oh my God. This fucking guy, man. Hey, whoever was booking Diddy for speaking engagements, I heard he won't be able to make it. I'm available at 50 Cent. Action. Yo, this nigga's a fucking tyrant. I knew it. I knew he was gonna be over there already, just that fast. He posted that 12 minutes ago. All right, let's go back to the article. So after the $500,000 fine, in a sentence in brief, the live arguments delivered Friday, Combs and his high-powered defense begged for no more than 15 months in prison. They claim Combs' actions were the product of a traumatic childhood and a ferocious drug addiction. They also argued his conviction was an outlier under federal law because it lacked a profit motive or any brothels, pimps, or minors. Prosecutors said the motive was his own sexual gratification. For their part, prosecutors asked for a sentence of 11 years and 3 months in custody, arguing the unrepentant Combs committed his crimes while subjecting his ex girlfriends, Cassandra Cassie Ventura, and a woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane, A50, allegedly, violence, coercion, and abuse. The federal probation department considered a more neutral arbiter recommended a sentence of 70 to 87 months in prison. A history of good works can't wash away the record in this case, which shows that you abuse the power and control over the lives of women who you profess to love, judge said. As he issued his sentence after the 6-hour hearing, this was subjugation and it drove Miss Ventura and Jane to thoughts of ending their lives. Cassie literally within the last 48 hours said that in her letter to the judge. At times she contemplated taking herself out of here. Wow. That Cassie letter weighed heavy. What did we say this morning? I said he probably got hundreds of letters from people from both sides. But what's going to weigh the heaviest? If I'm the judge, I'm not skipping those reads. I'm reading Diddy shit last night, and I'm also reading Cassie shit the other day. Ooh. Oh, it's all tactical. Yeah, Cassie, you helped him get more than what he was asking for. You know, it is what it is. In his own statement to the court on Friday, Combs said he was deeply sorry for his actions. I want to personally apologize again to Cassie Ventura for any harm or hurt that I've caused her, emotionally or physically. He said after asking for a minute to compose himself, according to CNN. I've been humbled and broken to my core. I hate myself right now. I got stripped down to nothing. I beg your honor for mercy. Combs spoke after his 6 adult kids also addressed the court. Oh, they got a chance to speak out? Wow. Claiming their dad was a changed man who deserved a second chance. We know he isn't perfect and has made many mistakes. We aren't here to excuse any of those mistakes, but he is still our dad and we still need him present in our lives. Jessica Combs, one of the 18-year-old twin daughters Combs shared with the late model Kim Porter, said through tears. That's all you could ask for, man, through thick and thin. Your family being the last people there, at least in your corner. I praise them for that. I respect them for that. I really do. I really do. Wow. Combs, the Bad Boys record founder, was spun his music media and beverage business into $1 billion fortune. Was convicted. So we know that piece already at the 7-week trial. Okay. All right. Let's move to the next thing now. We got a couple more pieces we got to check out in all of this because breaking news. So let's see if there's any more context that we grabbed from Inner City Press, the legendary Twitter account and media personnel that be in these New York courthouses, especially when there's no cameras allowed in. His tweets are like sometimes down to the damn second. I'm like, does he have like an AI reader fed to his Twitter? How does he do it? But if we go to his Twitter here, 25 minutes ago, Judge, I want to speak to the strong women who came forward. Oh, this is the judge saying this? Cassie and Jane, you've been through trauma we can't imagine. Miss Ventura said it was forced sex and degradation. I want to say we heard you. Oh, yeah, the judge ain't fucking with you, Diddy. You went in there with a great letter yesterday and you poured out your heart today from reports that we're reading. The sympathy didn't work. Judge said, nah, ain't going for it. Judge, you weren't just speaking to the jurors, but to other victims. You stood up to power. It's not easy. Violence behind closed doors doesn't have to stay secret forever. I know you still bear trauma, but you've taught us you don't have to stay a victim. Yeah, the judge felt like this was going to send a message. Obviously. Wow. And this was the breaking 30 minutes ago. Sean Combs sentenced to 50 months. Let's go a little bit before that and see what we were seeing. Just a little bit before that. All right, let's get to Diddy here. 59 minutes ago, Sean Combs. Sometimes you have to go through life experiences. These are not excuses. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. I beg Your Honor for mercy to be a father again and to be a son again, a leader in my community again, and to get the help that I need. 58 minutes ago, Sean says, or Diddy says, I don't want to let God down. I have no one to blame but myself. I know I will never put my hands on another person again. I'm willing to comply with any conditions. Me sharing my story, it's not a scheme to get less time. This story is tragic. Okay. Oh man, him addressing is tough. Him addressing the court is probably going over real tough in there. Uh-oh. Let's see what the homie had to say. Hold on, let me grab my earphones. Hold on. All right, Inner City, you up.
One hopes the sentencing of Sean Diddy Combs today, Friday, October 3rd, Southern District Court, New York Courthouse behind me. This was a walk that we used to take during the trial, but we'll do it today. We'll be resuming. What's happened this morning? Well, the judge dealt with the sentencing guidelines. He turned down a number of government enhancements, but still it arrived at a hefty guideline. But he also said it's just advisory. Government wants 11 years. Diddy wants time served. What happened after that? Well, Christy Slavic laid it on. She said this is not a typical Mann Act case. And I think most explosively, she said Diddy has already set up speaking engagements in Miami for next week and called it hubris. She also said that Mia, the victim who testified at trial, the person who testified at trial as Mia, would not testify, due in large part to a letter that from the defense that she called bullying. And the judge seemed to agree. He said it was inappropriate, don't do it again. But it's unclear when it could happen again, given that this is the sentencing. In any event, unless there's a resentencing, of course. Then we had, in no particular order, there's going to be a guy, a reverend doctor, and maybe a reentry person testifying. But Nicole Westmoreland spoke about Diddy as an icon. She seemed to cry a couple of times or sob. I just ran into somebody who said he didn't believe it. I don't know. She's a fine lawyer. She did some great cross-examining. I don't know if that was necessary. I don't know if maybe she couldn't help it. I don't know. The kids spoke, and there were some tears. It seemed genuine. Not for me to say. Driscoll spoke. Driscoll, Alexander Shapiro's partner, one of her partners, Driscoll, spoke about comparing it to various cases, including that of Dylan Jordan. We covered that case. He was a movie director charged with running a prostitution ring and also raping somebody. He got 60 months, but that was the maximum he could get given the plea agreement. So I don't know. We did something on the side. We did a little extra about Dylan Jordan. Driscoll said he's read all 900 Mann Act cases that are available in PACER. Some people were like, whoa, hats off to Driscoll. Hats off to Driscoll. Coming up in the afternoon, Brian Steele, Xavier Donaldson, Combs himself. And then it could happen. It could happen today. There was some talk of it going into Monday. It's going to be close, but I can't see how 3 speakers. Well, it depends how the Reverend Doctor. The reentry guy, I don't know if it's necessary. It'd really be up to Judge Subramanian if he wants to get it done today. And of course, the sentence itself is totally up to Judge Subramanian.
Obviously,
we're halfway through, and we're live tweeting. And this now is the scene. I'll show it from afar because it's going to be getting through it is going to be something else. We've got cameras on one side of the street. We've got a crowd in front of the building. We've got a CBS car here. But we'll end it right here. We're heading back in. Inner City Press. We continue.
Shout out to Inner City Press once again, man. Shout out to them. All right, let's take a look at some other reactions. Oh, boy. So this was coming out of TMZ. This was early this morning. All right. This was obviously before the sentencing came down. Diddy wearing emotions on his sleeve. And you see they got the painted sketch of him in the courtroom, wiping away his tears with tissue. Diddy's camp doesn't have a dry eye in the courtroom as sentencing hearings plays out. And even he needed a box of tissues after mostly keeping a poker face on or throughout the criminal case. The Bad Boy Records founder grabbed the tissue and dabbed his eyes Friday as his defense played a nearly 12-minute long video that presented him as a great father and a pillar of the community. The video followed tearful pleas from his 6 adult children who begged for their father to come home. And then when it was his daughter's turn to speak, Diddy broke down. Oh, oh, damn, son. Uh, Pardon me, y'all. Pardon me. The father shit kicked in right there for me. Like, damn. Yeah, all your kids had, and then your daughter, and they played this. They did everything. We're never gonna walk away and say he didn't have great representation and support. He did. I think his lawyers didn't skip a beat, really. I think they did a good job. I mean, shit, the conviction and him beating the RICO within itself, right? He could have served the rest of his life in prison. But even after the convictions and the way his lawyers continued, they did their thing. It just ended up being worse than he wanted it to be. 4 years, okay, 50 months. But they put a video together. I would love to see that video. It might be available somewhere for all we know. It might catch glimpses of it in the upcoming days for all we know. We've got eyes and ears in the courtroom. You got to listen to our own Jacob Wasserman set the scene in Lower Manhattan. It sounds like Diddy's defense is trying to lay it on thick, and they're leaning into an emotional element as they try to convince the judge to hand down a lighter sentence. The hearing is starting up again after a lunch break, and Diddy's back in court. And it will be interesting to see if the judge was moved by Diddy's family and the dramatic documentary style video. We'll never know. Maybe he was moved. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know if the judge is a father or not. I don't know how sympathetic he was to Diddy's play. I don't know how he felt about. See, let's check this video out right here too, because one thing that we heard is that although he beat certain charges, the judge still was factoring them in. All right, let's pull this one up. It's spooky for him in there, being once again, this was a little bit earlier in the day. This was posted 2 hours ago.
Hey y'all, so really quick, I just wanted to, we're on my lunch break, I just wanted to give you guys a little update. First of all, let me just say, people are asking, the minute I walked out of court, people were asking me, what's the feeling in there? Like, what's the temperament in the court? I would say in the beginning of court, so the first few hours, it feels like Diddy about to get the book thrown at him, if I'm being honest with y'all. Like, I think, there's a lot of things to take into consideration here. I think the fact that the judge says, hey, even though he was acquitted of, all those things that relate to that RICO and everything that he didn't get hit with charge-wise, that didn't stick, you can consider that when having a conversation about certain things moving forward, as we're talking about sentencing, because the judge's point was we wouldn't have ended up here at prostitution if it wasn't for certain things that had to do with some of the charges he was acquitted. Point being, they talked a lot about the force, the coercion, the fear that they, are saying that Diddy and put into these women and put into Jane and put into Cassie, which made them do things that they did not want to do. The judge specifically mentioned Diddy threatening to not pay for Jane's home when her kids stayed. The judge mentioned Diddy texting Cassie and threatening to leak sex tapes. All things that there were hard evidence of, even though those charges did not stick, right? So the minute you hear that, because what they're having a conversation about right now is like it's the guidelines, the sentencing guidelines, and what can you lean on or what is the court going to lean on, and what is the court allowed to lean on? And they're taking it from both sides. They're looking at, here's what the prosecution is asking for us to consider, to think about. Here's what Diddy's team is asking us to consider and think about. And here's everything that each side is saying we don't want you to consider or think about, right? But then at the same time, right, you have, Diddy's team who gets up there, and Nicole Westmoreland broke down in tears. His attorney, Nicole Westmoreland, broke down in tears. And people are always like, why do you refer to her as the Black woman attorney? And here I'm going to do so because I feel like it's important to do so, right? And I'll explain why. So Nicole Westmoreland she's a Black woman attorney from Atlanta. It's also been, a thing and a conversation about the fact that she is a sexual violent or sexual assault survivor, right? She broke down in tears talking about what Diddy means to his family, to the Black community, the strides that he's made as like the first Black man to do several different things, and just how he's used all of his power, all of his fame to help people. He is not a person that has just disregarded people in the way the prosecution wants you to believe. But here's the thing. Before Westmoreland got up there and began to cry, and I think, and the reason why I brought up the fact that she's a Black woman on the team doing so is because none of the white attorneys could have did that. For me, in my opinion, I understood why she was doing it, but I felt like after the hours of, it was so clear, in my opinion, that the judge, he doesn't believe that Diddy is as remorseful as he should be. The judge specifically pointed out, because Diddy was asking, for sentencing to be taken easy on him because he has been remorseful to the court. He's asking several different things, but that was one of them, right? I'll get more into that later. But the judge is like, look, you've been remorseful and you've apologized for things. You haven't even, and you've admitted to things, yes, but you haven't yet to even admit to what you were actually convicted of, which was the prostitution charges, nor have you apologized for that. So no, I'm not going to say, oh my God, he's so remorseful to the court. I want to make sure we take this light. No. And while the judge is talking about what they're able to use, and, these attorneys are like, Brian Still's head was in his hands. His face was in his hands, like in disbelief almost. You had two of Diddy's attorneys stand up, Shapiro and Teeny Yergo stand up and talk about how being able to use anything he was acquitted of, how harshly that's going to impact his sentencing.
Yeah, I don't understand that
the
either.
Judge used the word, it would be non-consequential because you can only use it when having conversation around how we arrived to the actual things he was charged with, right?
Oh.
Which honestly, in my opinion, I'm like, there's no way that you only use it for certain things. And
Right.
Those things that you're talking about when it comes to force, coercion, the beating of the women, that all speaks to character. It's hard to not consider that when you're making a determination on sentencing.
Right.
And Teeny Garagos made a good point. She said, hey, I just want to put on record, you said the word non-consequential. Can we please discuss, like, yes, it is. And the judge corrected himself. He said, my bad if that's the word I use, but I want to be specific when I say, here is how I imply for for us as the court to be able to use anything he was acquitted of in sentencing. And the way that I am thinking about this and the way that it should be set up based on previous case law is not when it comes to the conversation of sentencing guidelines, but solely to understand how we arrived here. And the reason why I keep saying that is because the judge is arguing and the court is believing that in order for Diddy to be convicted of prostitution charges, he had to be able to coerce the women. He had to be able to put fear in the women. He had to be able to, all of the things, run an enterprise where people protected what he was doing and there's multiple people involved. And it's obvious that they're setting up, Diddy seeing lines for an appeal because Shapiro began to speak to that. But man, when them kids got up there, because now you have Nicole Westmoreland, she's crying and the temperature, I'm telling y'all going into this, it's like, oh, they about to throw the book at him. They're not buying that this man, it was an addict who made mistakes. They're not buying it. They're not buying the downplaying of the decision to beat Cassie up and down the hallway as, a dark moment in time that he's now rehabilitated himself from. And it was obvious that the court was not buying it. Nicole Westmoreland gets up there, she's crying, she's talking about the impact on the Black community as a Black woman, what it means to her, how she saw Diddy speak in DC and, how it moved her and all these things. I think she was really trying to make the judge understand how much of a vessel Diddy is. He's better outside of a jail than inside, was her ending point. Then the kids get up and speak. I cried, y'all. Like, I was like, oh my God. And it wasn't because I feel bad for Diddy. I think a lot of decisions that he made has put him up here. I wish him the best, though. But it was more so about these kids did not choose this. Like, they did not choose to be in this situation. They did not choose a life that would end them up in this courtroom, crying in front of all these people, all the headlines, one of the Combs twins said, please, like, she was begging the judge, sobbing, crying, begging the judge, please allow us the opportunity to heal as a family and not as a headline. Christian was the first. Hey, how you doing? Christian was the first of, Quincy spoke first, then Justin, then Christian. But Christian was the most emotional. He was emotional first. So he talked about, everybody knows Christian and Diddy's relationship. Diddy has a relationship with all of his kids, but Christian is like the guy's twin, you know what I mean? So he talked about, understanding and feeling his dad differently than even potentially some of his siblings, and knowing that his dad has changed over time because of conversations. But when the girls begin to speak, man, Diddy's hands dropped into his head. He couldn't even, he was watching them. He had to turn away at some points. Like it was really tough. Like it was hard. I was crying. People sitting next to me were crying. I'm looking in the courtroom on the monitor. Diddy's breaking down. Got people. I still saw Misa Hilton crying. Who's Justin Combs' mom. Like, then they played this video that shows all of his like family interactions and these moments. Diddy couldn't even watch the video. And the craziest thing about all of this is so the day we were on break for lunch, going into lunch, it ended emotionally heavy. Before that, it was very much the court is giving no remorse to Diddy. And the whole time I kept thinking two things. These kids did not ask for this, and I feel so bad for them. And another thing I thought of is Diddy's ego and his addiction is what ended us up here. And I wish and I hope that when he speaks, he readjusts whatever he had planned, because it is very obvious that the judge he don't feel remorse from Diddy. And I think what would be most impactful to hear from Diddy today before court ends is he was an addict, and what that really means. Because I think people are removing that too, because obviously, because you saw a woman be beat on camera, so you don't sympathize with a woman abuser, and you shouldn't. But I think that there is something to, I'm remorseful, but not only am I remorseful, now I understand exactly what is fucked up to be able to begin to fix it. Do I think that the judge feels like the amount of time that he has been locked up is enough time to just let him walk free with supervised release? Hell no. I don't think that. I don't think that the judge is right now, as of court is like a little bit after 1 p.m. The sentencing of Sean Diddy Combs, I don't see a judge taking it easy on him whatsoever. This is the latest with Lana Rosa. I'll be back at the end of court to give you guys, some talk on whatever happens. I'll see you guys soon.
Girl, great from inside the court coverage. We appreciate you, as well as Inner City Press. That was a great breakdown and take of the experiences from inside, being that we don't have the cameras, people. Great job, Lauren. Great job. Give that woman her fucking flowers for today and that type of coverage. That might be some of the best coverage to hit the internet today as far as what took place in that fucking courtroom. I wasn't even expecting for it to be that good. She damn near had me starting to get cinematic while I was sitting here. I started seeing the scene. I started painting the picture a little bit visually. But there's a lot to unpack there. Shit. Judge hits him with the, you have yet, get this shit, nigga. You have yet to admit guilt and express regret towards the actual charges that you were convicted of, the Mann Act stuff. Now, I don't think he could have. She mentioned that you could tell that they were already moving for angles of appeal, and they already had lawyers throughout the whole trial braced for appeals, marking down certain stuff, taking certain moments into account for the worst case scenarios. If you admit to that stuff, right, like how does that affect your appeal? So I want to talk about everything but this Mann Act stuff. Maybe that's the reason why still there was an effect with the judge. Okay, the second big thing there, though, how you discuss the things that you're not convicted of, even though they were part of leading up to the actual convictions of Mann Act and prostitution. So you're still talking about and discussing, and I guess the big word is considering the assaults, and I could just throw one in there random, like the Kid Cudi car bombing and all of this shit, right? Allegedly. For the judge to do, they probably want to appeal on that alone. That's new for me. Never seen that. Never heard of that. She mentioned a moment where even a judge had to retract and correct his words for that. Like, well, I don't mean it like that. But that is something I don't know if anybody, including Diddy's team, saw coming. They probably walked in there, and we saw that from the whole prep paperwork submission that they submitted last week, breaking down all the comparable cases and saying, look, damn that you average all this shit out. It looks like we should be leaving tomorrow. Hence these Miami booking fucking engagements that we got going on next week. Right. But obviously that's what they, and why wouldn't you just look at that? If I'm Diddy's team, I'm focused on that too. When we get there Friday for sentencing, we focusing on the Mann Act shit, and that's it. Judge is looking at other shit or considering or and you want to know what that almost feels like to me too? Bare minimum. It's those common scenarios when a lawyer says something that still gets retracted from the minutes, right? Or gets struck from the record. You know, isn't it true you beat the shit out of my client 5 times? Objection. Judge says, okay, rephrase your, it's too late. Don't say that type of shit again. He still says it though, because even though it's struck from the record, even though you can't have proceedings against it, right? The jury heard it and they're humans. The jury heard it. It's in their mind. It might be in their heart to hear some of these details that these lawyers throw out there still. And to me, that's damn near what the judge was doing. Like, oh no, I'm still thinking about that video of you beating, because there's no assault charge here that he walked into today to combat. The judge is like, no, I'm still thinking about this Cassie video. And before I close out on the emotional strings, seems from the reports that the judge is like, I don't really fully accept how remorseful you are. Not just because you didn't admit to the Mann Act, but just in general. It's almost like, I don't believe you. And what did we say? It was either yesterday or today. I said, yo, then people also look at how Diddy handled the initial reports about Cassie coming out and how he took such a strong stance against it until the video exposed him. Then he had to, oh, fuck, I can't lie my way out of this now. So you might even be thinking like I'm dealing with a liar or actor. I do believe Diddy has that in his repertoire, being a good speaker and being engaging and bringing you in. I do. And I don't want to call him and his family's whole thing today in that courtroom a big scripted show. I don't want to call it that, because there was an emotional tweak there. She said she was crying. She said she looking next to her and there's other people in the court. I sarcastically said the same shit. Like, damn, Diddy saw that video and then because he probably never got the opportunity to watch it himself while he was in prison, right? They probably put that together and played it. And that was the first time he got his head down. Like, that shit probably really genuinely fucked him up. Like, I'm such a fucking asshole, man. Like, how the fuck did I? And then by the time it got to your daughter, cracked. And you got people in the court crying and all this shit. But whose job is it to not get emotional? Not to be sitting there next to me and Lauren tearing up because we parents and shit. Whose job is it to stay stone-faced and look through everything, consider the actual details and what I feel is a just punishment? The judge. He was solid. And I thought he was more of a cool, laid-back guy when they were going through jury selection earlier, or like when the trial was first kicking up. That's my interpretation of him. And my latest interpretation of him is like, yeah, he could be just a laid-back guy. He was telling some jokes early on and all that process. Just a solid guy, though. And maybe that's why he got the job. Okay. So in closing, pat us on the back over here, me as well. Let me lead that ship from this morning stream when I said, I'm going to go with about 4 years. You know, I didn't just pull a number out. I gave breakdown as to why we landed there, and we're spot on with that, people. We're spot on with that. On one side, people could say, you did a lot, Diddy. A lot came into that courtroom. You may have allegedly got away with a lot. So technically 4 years, hey, that you could celebrate that maybe. No, you could look at it from that perspective. But then the other perspective is what you were actually convicted of, the comparable cases to that. Dude had shit booked in Miami, B. He thought he was going home today. Instead, we'll see you when you turn about 60 years old. 4+. All right, I'll catch you in the morning. Sorry, it's true.
Don't confuse silence with work ethic. I'm a boss making decisions, my first fetish. The verse cherished is perfect, that's a reverse blemish. I dropped it, connected the block, learn Tetris.
This is the Sorry It's True podcast. Welcome to the house of. And shout out to the members.